We'll wait till 2 o'clock right on and then we'll go for it. When you're watching the clock, it takes a lot longer.
Missing Gamal and Jennifer.
I'm watching that numbers right there. That's the official clock. It is 2 o'clock. This is October 19th, 2022. It's the Trees and Trails Advisory Committee meeting. And I'm going to call the meeting to order. And then let's do committee, who's here? Rick Barnett, I'm here.
Jan Diamantine.
Rod Sell.
Rod Sell. Okay, there's 3 of us. We are missing a couple. Approval of minutes for August 17th, 2022. And I've got to be honest, I just looked at those a few minutes ago. I didn't see any concerns on them. Did anybody else see any concerns on them?
Yeah, Rod wasn't here. And his name is listed.
So what?
Rod was not
here, so he wouldn't
His
know.
name is listed. And, you know, I guess I don't have a life because I listened to our whole last meeting that was videoed, and thank you for getting it on. We spent a half an hour on that, qualifications to be on this committee.
Right.
I think 32 minutes, actually. But at the beginning of the meeting, Nancy said that the consular representative shouldn't have a vote. And then none of us picked up on it, but he voted on that to be, if it should be just city people or non-residents.
Okay, good point, yeah. So I'm looking for that. Oh, second, we're in favor and 1 opposed. The motion was denied. So the motion was denied anyway.
And it's kind of mute now because it already went to the city council, but
Okay, so if we can make that change, Ciara, that'd be great. Anything else? Okay, I move to accept the minutes with that change.
I seconded.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect. Okay, RTP grant, and Ron, is it you that's going to talk to us about that?
Yeah, I'll start it out.
You sound so enthusiastic about
Yeah,
it.
oh no, I'm excited. I'm ecstatic. So we, at the last meeting, I think one of my requests of BLT or this committee was to come up with a list of grant programs that could fund trails and do the legwork for staff since we didn't have anybody available to do it. Since that time, Rod and I have talked quite a bit extensively. We originally had thought about bringing the Burkhart Creek Trail off of Airport Road to the committee. In fact, we put in for that, but after thinking about it a little bit more, Rod came back and said, what if we did the River Park? It's not quite as shovel ready, but it's probably a better project overall than just a trail to nowhere at this time. So what you have before you is the packet. Obviously, this has not, this is the grant, we've submitted a letter of intent. The grant itself, I believe, is due the 15th of November, Rod?
Right.
And we're getting everything ready. I think what would be beneficial for us is a motion from this committee, basically, that this, which trail segment, and if any trail segment, do you want to apply for the RTP grant, Recreational Trails Program? There is another option that Galen gave me today, but I'll find that. Maybe I won't find that. I got so many different, there it is right here. And I'll pass this around. You can see what the one in the packet has that I handed out.
I think they're both there.
Oh, they are actually, but well, there's a little bit different version that Galen came up with, which is this. I'll pass that around and let everybody take a look at that. See which version you like better.
So I think the idea was to, if there was an opportunity to to put a trail around the park and connect with existing trails. That was what discussion that we
Yeah,
had.
and that's exactly what he's done. It's just a little bit different layout there. He handed me this after lunch today, so.
It's really similar. Yeah.
The idea was to get the loop trail away from the center of the park so that if for any future development, it wouldn't be in the way.
Yes. And this is on a chunk of property that. This is a committee. Do they know the news on the property they're on?
Yeah, I guess as a side note, we are in the process of, Albany's putting together a sales agreement for that property, that River Park property. That was, and then we'll take it back to city council. They agreed to the price, and then we'll take it back to city council for final approval in public session, sometime.
That's the northern. or
Yeah,
the
that's
more
the northern
lot.
piece of this. This
That's fine.
entire trail encompasses basically the western boundary of the existing park as well. And I wanted some input from everybody, especially Jason, in terms of location. Is this something we want to pursue or?
I really like the western alignment. I think that'll be a good delineation
There used
from
to be
the
a
park
road,
and the apartment, and that road's there, so it's gonna be easy to construct.
right?
It should be a good addition.
I think there's also an option of phasing, depending on what the cost estimates come out at.
I think the cost estimate that I looked at, I would say that I would move forward with the whole thing. I wouldn't phase it.
Great.
Just based on what, we have a 30% match available for the project,
That's wonderful.
based on the cost estimate that we have. Which I don't remember. I think for the original one we were looking at, Rod, was somewhere in the neighborhood of 150,000 overall. But this one's gonna add to that probably, I can't remember the difference in footage from our original estimate, but it's not.
That property does have some, we'll have to do some mitigation in there, I think, Ron.
In terms of wetland?
Yeah. We went in there and cleared it a long time ago, and I just remember there being some boggier areas.
Well, I walked back there. I guess we could do a delineation on it.
Well, I think you'll have to for the grant.
Not necessarily. I mean, I walked it also, and, I mean, there's some gullies and stuff there, but unless it's an active waterway,
Yeah.
well, it was dry. Of course, everything is dry right now.
Right.
It does carry water though, right? Doesn't it come off of, East Grant Street?
Mhm.
And there's a drainage way. I don't know if that's the same drainage way or not.
I'd have to
It
look at the
comes
entire
all
thing,
all
the
way
entire
through.
alignment.
And I know Galen put a culvert in there in the design. too,
Yeah.
so.
And that might be the area that it is, I'm thinking of. Just remember we dug a bunch of wells and test pits in there.
Well, if that's the case, then maybe we factor that in. I still don't think that that's,
Probably not much.
no, it would be minimal at best. And even if you had to mitigate a little piece in there, we'll factor that into the grant then, Rod? Doing mitigation. So we need to revise that environmental screening assessment to
So-
say that we're going to do an evaluation, make sure that there are no existing wetlands. If so, we will mitigate.
So what you're hoping for is a vote of support from the committee? Is that what you're
Yes.
looking for?
Yes.
Any questions on that? I don't. think
Or
that's a-
recommended changes, or, I mean, in making sure that the committee wants to move this forward, really is what we're looking at.
I don't have any experience on this particular project, or I've been there, but that's about it. So I'll rely on the BLT folks who know more about that.
I think that what spurred the project was the extension of the West River Trail to continue eventually all the way to the Marksley Trail system. And this was an opportunity that came up to be able to enhance River Park with the trail. So that was the addition that Galen had proposed.
It's a nice loop. You know, it's not out and back. I was pretty impressed when I saw it.
It'll be a really nice addition to the park, staff feels.
And clean it up.
Is there any concerns from staff about maintenance? Whenever you build
Always.
something.
Absolutely, every foot. But I think the benefit in this grant project, I mean, just got a grant available and got property to do something with, and we need to provide some safety and security in that area of the park. So it'd be a great way to do that.
Perfect. Okay, so committee, what would you like to do? Would we like to just, we can make a motion to say that we're supportive of the project as is, with minor, if there's minor revisions that need to happen, that's great. But
Yeah, to make a motion to recommend with minor changes, the design that's been presented at the meeting to take it to city council for approval.
perfect. You got a
Seconded.
second?
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nobody's opposed. Okay.
So can I ask a question? Is that a street that comes in up at the north side of it,
North side.
off to the west? Well, west, I guess it would be.
Looking, Jim.
Might be looking at the ditch way.
There, what is,
That's the ditch Rod was talking about, I think.
oh, where they're putting.
Oh,
the-
yeah.
It doesn't come from any street into
No,
that.
no.
That comes
There's
just on the
no, there's
outside of
no,
that apartment building.
Okay.
yeah.
And I think in the original trails plan, it actually has the trail going down the ditch, but it doesn't go anywhere else, so it doesn't make sense
No.
to not move it over where it's in the park.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we'll have to work through any, I haven't walked the alignment yet. This has all kind of come together in the last 3-4 days, so we'll have to look at it and make the determination on whether it would meet the need for wetland, but we can incorporate that into the grant.
So it's 0.76, that loop? It says on the right-hand side.
It's 21,
Oh, 2160 feet, okay.
yeah, where are you seeing the 0.76?
Oh, down where, I guess Old Mill Trail,
That's Old
down
Mill,
there,
maybe.
that's something else, okay.
Okay.
2000.
Perfect. Any more on the grant? Okay, let's talk proposed South Shore Trail alignment. Is that you again? or-
Yeah, sure, why not? So we had told the committee, I don't know, a long time ago, seems like, but it was probably just a couple of months ago, that we were going to incorporate the South Shore Trail into the Cheetah Lake Grant Project for the upgrades at the park. We have since decided that that's not a very good idea. This money here is federal money. And if we tie it into the Cheetah Lake grant, it would federalize that grant, which creates a whole bunch more reporting and different aspects that it just doesn't make sense to do on that big of a project. So we're proposing to take off on this, probably put a design together and do it next spring before Strawberry Festival, if I can pull it off. But that's a big if, but at least sometime next year, next spring, summer, whatever.
Is that the Jamie Kate money for this one?
Yes,
The 325,000?
yes.
And either one? that goes
Yeah,
Through the trees or?
I
not?
think my preference would be to go through the trees and avoid the berm altogether. Because if we put that in, there's with a lot of the this would eliminate potential conflicts with the park project if we did that. We just showed two different options that either one would be good. But the one through the trees, there's already kind of a trail there. If we take the one that swings out over where the amphitheater is, we're gonna have to dig out the amphitheater as part of the project, and then I'm not sure how we put that back. So I know that berm is likely gonna come out with the park project.
Yeah, and there'll be some additional ADA parking, most likely, that's gonna butt right up against that. So I don't think it would be a good use to go around the trees instead of through.
Yeah, it's kind of like the trees do pose a problem because they're kind of not the best trees in there, and you
Yeah,
have to-
we'll have to cut some.
Yeah,
of
I
that.
like trees. It's a shade, in the walk or whatever, but.
I think before we got too crazy with it, Jason and I probably walk the alignment and send our crews out and essentially clear a path for it
Yeah.
before. There's a fairly decent path in there
Yeah,
right
well, we
now,
have,
but-
the kids run there and then we have the
Mhm.
kids obstacle dash too through there.
Yep.
But
There's a lot of cottonwoods and stuff that are leaning. Mike and I looked at that
Poison
pretty
oak.
extensively. Yeah.
But, you know, Bill Living Trails plants trees. You know, we plant trees.
Well, I think there'll still be plenty of tree canopy left when we're done. We can definitely get some of the other ones out there.
Okay.
So we're just kind of looking for any input on that. If the committee is good with the option A, or if you like option B, I think there's some challenges with B, but A, we will get the design done. There's a lot of reporting that goes with this grant. And so the sooner we can get this out of our hair and not do quarterly, yearly, and sometimes yearly financial reporting on it, the better.
I make a motion that we move forward recommending option A for the reasons that you stated. I think it's valid.
I second it.
Okay, any discussion? And I do have just a little bit. I think it's good to stay away from the federal reporting. That federal money always, you have commitments for a very long time with that. So, okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Waiting. Okay. Rod made the motion, so I assumed he was an aye. Let's do BLT update. Rod, are you?
Could I,
Oh,
just
yes.
one thing before we move off these two maps? So as part of this next project, park project that we're gonna do at Cheetah Lake, I'll be bringing back to you guys a proposed realignment of the existing trail on the east side as it runs along the trees to make way for the design and fit of the baseball fields that are gonna go in there. Just something to think about. It'll be something that comes back as we work through that park project plan.
You think the benches there is going to be okay?
I think so. I think they're down here a little bit further right, and then one
Oh,
at the
yeah, it's
end.
quite a ways. It's close to
Yeah.
the ramp that goes down into the lake.
We're just kind of about halfway up. I think we're gonna have to kick the alignment back on the other side of those trees to fit what's kind of sketched right now. It's not final design yet, but
Right, no, that might actually enhance that trail a little bit.
yeah.
So when, somebody may have said it, what are you thinking timeline for the park? Is that next summer, 2 summers from now? Do you have an
Right now,
idea?
it's being surveyed. So we're getting a survey done. A lot of it's going to depend on the speed of our consultant. I think there's probably a good chance that this is a 2-year project, and what we may do this next year is more of the public improvements piece of it, you know, out towards Wyrick, or to be honest with you, I think we need to see the design so that we can piece it together so that it's a functional project, and not have aspects of like constructing baseball diamonds and then a lot of heavy civil work. I think you're looking at 2 different contractors, so we're still tossing that around. It's also possible that nothing happens this next year. Just depends on how everything lines out
Okay.
right now. Still up in the air. This
So-
was one of those projects that got thrown in the middle of all the other projects, and so trying to squeeze everything in is a little bit challenging.
And this one has the funding, right? It's a matter of
Yeah,
kind of
I think
whether-
there was some thought of maybe looking at a large government grant, although there's a substantial piece of this that's SDC eligible, both in streets and also in parks. So we're still weighing whether it makes sense to go get a large government grant. I think a lot of it's going to be dependent on a cost estimate of what everything once we get it put together. Jason, that seem about right to you?
Yeah.
So it's you don't know when it'll start at this point, and
No.
quite possibly a 2-season project to get it all done.
I would definitely say it's a 2-season project to get it done. I mean, we're looking at potentially over $5.5 million worth of work. So
It's a lot of work. Okay.
The one thing we do know is nothing will happen between now and next Strawberry Festival.
Nothing on site.
Nothing on site.
Yeah. But right after the strawberry, you can see it, whatever year you do it, you're just going to kind of jump in right after the strawberry.
That's the
festival.
hope. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got to be able to have that cleaned up. So that's why you're looking at this thing in more phases, because you don't want to be all tore up out there and try to do Strawberry Festival. It wouldn't, so trying to piece all that together in constructability, it's going to take us a bit to figure that out. But we'll keep you apprised until we have something on paper. It's really
Yeah.
not much we can do with it.
Yeah, that's fair. I was just curious.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Let's move on to BLT update.
All right, thank you.
Assuming I'm looking at Rod, I guess.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to better understand how this committee works, so I just wanted to make sure I'm not off base by talking a little bit about what I believe the formal process is, and one of the reasons for the coming to the committee is to fulfill that process. So quickly, I just wanted to run through that with a discussion. So I think that way projects for BLT and any other group that has a project is to have informal conversations with staff, just to kind of talk about whatever it is. And then that committee, and in this case, the BLT would bring a project to the Trees and Trails Committee and present it, and looking for either a recommendation or no recommendation. And then with a recommendation, it would go to the city council, primarily, I think, in the minutes of this meeting. And that's how those projects get approved by council. Is that?
The grant will be a formal ask like this RTP project.
Okay, yeah.
So a project like that would be a formal ask at council, not just in the minutes.
Okay, and I think more what I was looking for is the ability then to, after this committee reviews it and the city council says that looks like a feasible project, is being able to talk with staff outside of this meeting. And Ron and I have had that conversation and have been kind of doing that, and to work out whatever little issues or design things we need to talk about. So that's the way I understand it works. And then we bring updates to the Trees and Trails Committee on whatever those approved recommendations are.
So that looks right to me. I want to ask the city staff if that process is workable, if that makes sense, if it's legal, all of those kind of things.
Yeah, so in this case, so this is an interesting one with the RTP that we have in front of us. Timing is everything, right? So we were a little late getting out of the gate on the timing of it. So from my perspective, once we know that this committee has recommended, you've got a council liaison on this committee. Once this committee has recommended, hey, let's move forward with this, then those discussions with you and I mean, that's totally great. I think where we want to make sure that we're really clear is not to circumvent the committee, so that we're not, what's the best way to describe that? The whole purpose of this committee is to bring all trails issues, all parks issues, all trees issues, so that it can be in an open setting and it's not done behind closed doors.
Yeah,
That's
transparency.
the entire purpose of the committee, and to make those recommendations to the city council.
Like you said, timing is everything. Yeah.
I'll set the timer.
I think last time we were here, we had the same thing happen.
So with that, yeah, I mean, obviously it makes more sense. In this case, Rod's doing a lot of the grant work. He's putting all that stuff together because honestly, I don't have the staff time to pull that off unless we've kind of planned for it a little bit. So he's doing all that legwork on that. So yeah, I beyond that, I would say that that's correct. I mean, this committee just recommended to move forward with the RTP. We'll apply for that grant. City council has to approve that grant, should we get that grant. And then I don't know if the grant requires a formal resolution to accept or not. We'll have to see. But regardless, it's either by motion or resolution that they would have to do that. So, Jason,
Yeah, I think that's exactly how we need to handle it.
I think it's going to work really well.
Yeah.
That sounds great. And I really think that's a good function for BLT to be out there looking at what's possible, because I know these guys don't have the time and we don't spend enough time on it in this setting. So I think that's a really good role for BLT too.
Great. So to move forward, I think we've talked about the Albany property significantly. So the Burkhart Creek Trail that Ron had mentioned, I'd still like to take one more step maybe and get that, get the estimate, the project estimate, so that it is shelf ready to go on the shelf, a project, or when it does come up to the top of the list, and then kind of put that away. And
Which one, from where to where, Rod? I can't remember.
it's across the
Applegate.
Range with the Applegate property.
okay.
It's, was 1,401 feet, I think. And I walked that the other day and it just kind of.
Gotcha, thank you.
Seemed like you don't want to put people there yet.
Yeah, I think that's a good call on that. That's just our most shovel ready at this point. I mean, in terms of easements and everything. So, but
So
this will be different.
so with the Burkhart Creek Trail and the Albany property north of River Park, what that does for BLT, knowing there's a project there, is now we can start looking into what are the connections we need to make? How do we acquire the trail right of ways to extend those trails as outlined in the Trails Master Plan? So just so the committee knows, that's kind of what our next steps are, is to try to put more pieces together so that we can move forward with future project. The Burkhart Creek Trail project at the Applegate development is one great example of how we need one or two properties to cross one or two properties, and then we have a very substantial looped opportunity for a trail that will be heavily used. So that's kind of, you'll see that in our goals. I think we have our goal setting session later this month, and we'll be bringing that to this committee once we get those set again, and that'll be a couple of the goals that you'll see on there, I'm sure. So I wanted to touch a little bit of history for the committee on what BLT's been trying to do to help with the trail maintenance, specifically the mowing. And I found an opportunity to buy a mower. It's a great mower, but I was going to pull it behind my side-by-side. And so I inquired with the city and city staff about, can we do this? Before I buy it, I'd like to know. And then Ron did some research, and you were involved, probably Jason, found out that it's not probably feasible to do that because of insurance questions and can't remember the name of the safe, I guess.
CIS?
Yeah.
And I think you and I corresponded about that, and I gave you the same. I thought it was going to be a concern.
Yeah.
Um,
And you said you have actually one person that does it for you.
we have one person on city equipment that is trained as a city staffer would be to do
Sure.
that.
And so really what I'm looking for is solutions to any of the trail maintenance issues that staff has. How can we help? And keep looking for a solution. That door's closed, maybe open another door, find another solution.
Sure.
Is there does the city have difficulty getting that mowed? And it's just time? Is that what it is? Or is it a lack of equipment?
It's a lack of people.
Yeah.
Right now,
Okay.
to be honest. I mean,
So you have the equipment to do it if you needed to do it. You just don't have the,
385 acres of developed turf that we mow and maintain.
right?
Then you add all the double miles of trail right away to mow and maintain.
Okay.
Something's got to give. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I understand.
And I think this year, where we noticed it the most was the North Shore Trail. And it got missed for whatever reason, and then just the mowers got shut down and gone to other projects and never got back to it. That's what raised our level of wanting to figure out a way to get that mowed. And there was another section that we did, I think it was on the West River Trail, where we used a 24-inch wide walk-behind mower. Takes a lot of passes to get that done walking behind it. So it's a solution, but it's not a good one for us. It just takes way
The
too much
blackberries were really bad on the island loop trails. They were like almost,
time. Yeah, that was another spot, right? And they're starting to come back. So with that said, BLT has been thinking more about how can we help. And the board would like to be able to help financially in some way. And one of the ways that we have discussed is to help fund a seasonal that would be a park seasonal, who would have whatever the amount of funding we could come up with between the city and BLT, that they would have dedicated hours. And believe me, I understand that you can't say a person's going to be on a mower and just do that. That's not the way it works in
Well,
real
it's
life.
Organization, I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of reason.
So what I'd like to do, or BLT'd like to do, is get a cost estimate for the months in the summer. What is it, like April, the mowing season, April to October or something? And kind of get an idea so we can figure out how much we could afford or could get approved to assist if the city's interested in doing something like that as a solution.
I can't see, if it worked, I can't see the city turning that down.
Well, the city would be
Yeah,
open arms for that, for sure. I can get you a cost estimate.
Right?
Yeah, I'll get you that right away.
Then they'd be under the liability of the city if they were hired for the
Yeah,
city.
they'd just be a city temporary seasonal staff.
And
We can dedicate that amount of funding or, you know, to those aspects of trail maintenance that we're falling down on a little bit.
And I think what happens, at least that I remember happening before, is it wouldn't necessarily be John who's hired to go do that. It would be, I need John over here, it might be somebody else that does
Yeah,
it.
it's just the hours.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
not necessarily by name.
and I was out on several of the trails this summer, and I actually think they did pretty well because considering everything, it was very hard to get staffing this summer. And
It's really hard.
the
to get
trails here
started.
looked a lot better than the trails in a neighboring city that I'm responsible for. So
We went out at night and cleaned them.
Yeah, there was a lot of areas we didn't get to, that's for sure.
I like the concept
Yeah,
a
me
lot.
too.
So to add to that, BLT is officially requesting that this committee considers a recommendation to city council to add a budget line item or whatever verbiage that, staff would like to have as trail maintenance. Something so that we know if we raise funds in the future and which we've talked about, to help them with an endowment fund or something, that we know it's going to a spot where it's budgeted every year and it's
This many hours are going for this.
goes
is
through the
what you're
budget
looking-
process.
Yeah.
So we seem to be missing that. We've been wanting to kind of work with the budget committee to get that done in previous years, but we've always missed it because staff starts way early.
Mhm.
Budget committee meetings happen, and it's kind of a little late to be proposing things. So we think we're early with that at this point.
My concern for that, so if we did all the work, got that in a budget document, had its own line item, and then for whatever reason, one particular year BLT couldn't provide that funding, then it's a complete redo, so.
Yeah,
I'd want to have some pretty good assurances moving all that work forward for all the people that would have to do that that funding was going to be there.
So would
But
it
it
make
really
sense to just, you guys, Jason, bring back a number and then BLT say, well, we can afford X and then make that decision and recommendation based on that? Because we're going to need to see the dollar value that we're going to have to chip into that as well. So I think, and then we would, I mean, I don't know when our next committee meeting is, but Sierra? November 16th. That's going to have to push.
We'll get there. Hold on.
Okay. Okay.
what we've also discussed is, the board's discussed is, to maybe help with this discussion a little bit, is to say, well, we're going to commit this amount of money for this amount of years. So if there was, just come up with a number of 5 years that we'd had said, then that could be a budget line item for 5 years, as an example. And I think part of the idea is to get something in there and then keep working at it to try to get maybe other sources of funding or something to work so that continues to be a long-term and not short-term.
Good.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay. So know that Ron, you'd stated that the Cheetah Lake North Shore Trail, rebuilding of that is one of the city's top repair trail projects. So what Ron and I talked about is the staff or BLT researching to see if there is grant funding to fund major rehabilitation projects. At one of our council meeting, or one of our Trees and Trails Committee meetings, I don't know if it's the one I was at or one before, the one I watched, but was a discussion about there isn't any funding out there. It's very difficult to get funding for major rehabilitation. So in some of the grant research that I just recently did, there is actually money out there, a little bit to my surprise, but so there's funding available through the Recreational Trails Grant Program. It's for heavy restoration, and through the Land and Water Conservation Fund for trail construction, heavy restoration, and also local government grant program now funds the rehabilitation projects that are beyond their life expectancy. So when we talk about the North Shore Trail, we're getting close to the years for that project for life expectancy. And if we, so I'm going to talk to the grant coordinators and informally and just kind of feel out what we're looking at for that. And what would be helpful is a rough estimate of what we think cost might be on something like that. Because I know you talked about
Yeah.
hard armoring that one bank, and so
Yeah, and that is kind of be our highest priority as far as a trail rehab. That said, we'll have every four-letter federal agency involved in that.
right,
Um,
it's not going to be an easy fix, but
No, you're in the city of Albany. Really, what's going to have to happen is you're going to have to kick the trail out into the lake, which is a substantial undertaking, and then move the trail over so that you can slope the canal bank. So you'll have FERC, Corps of Engineers, ODFW. I mean, so to think that we're going to get any money, and I would suggest that that's a multi-million-dollar project, likely. So that's where Jason and I have talked about that in depth, and I'm not even sure how to approach it. I mean, I suppose there's a way that you could, probably the first thing to do would be a design grant that you could do, go through all your permitting and all that stuff in order to move that along. But that's a fairly major undertaking to redo that trail and get it right. Any rehab we do on it in its current alignment is, in my opinion, wasted money. It's just until we can fix the canal banks and get a slope to them that's not gonna erode into the trail. It's
so I kind of get the feeling that maybe you don't want to, maybe we shouldn't be looking into that to see if it's feasible.
I guess a lot of it depends on how much is available out there. Obviously, if there's $3 or $4 million project that we could apply for a grant for, I think we'd probably be open to doing that. But
I actually think we have to look into it, because the alternative is we have a failure on there any more than what we've already had. It's just a closed section and there's no work that's been done
right,
to
I
get us
agreed.
repaired. So the reality of having a failure out there is pretty high.
So I think looking is kind of where we are now,
Yeah,
not committing to anything, but just
No.
trying to find, again, a solution to what we know is going to be a problem in the future. And then,
I guess my point was just when you are looking, it's not just a couple $100,000 project. It's going to be a multi-year. And I mean, in order to move that trail, and you're talking a lot of material. And then the question becomes of whether it's even will be allowed by the federal agencies. and
So is
state.
it really, if you were going to look for a grant, it would be for design and that sort of stuff?
To
figuring out
me,
what it
that's
would
the
take?
first place to start. I mean, is to get something off the ground, unless, like I said, if there was a large pool of money somewhere where you had the potential to do something where you could do the construction too. But just the design in that and of itself is going to be a little bit tricky.
How about putting from this when they get the South Shore Trail done, putting some kind of a bridge or levee or something across the part of that lake that goes to the Thumb,
Doing a trail bridge there?
that goes to the Thumb from,
From Cheetah Lake Park.
from the South Shore, maybe the end of the South Shore Trail.
Yeah, I mean, there's potentials there.
And then just deleting that other portion.
Yeah, I mean, that's entirely possible. So from the boat dock all the way down, eliminating that?
No,
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 just from where you turn
from the,
across the land bridge.
I
It's
guess
the
I'm
bad section of trail that's.
It's still
really tight
gravel.
to-
Oh, I
the
got you.
thumb is
So
still
from
gravel.
where the trail, where it turns and just go, okay. Yeah, that's possible. Yeah.
Great.
Anything's possible with enough money.
That's right, you can fix anything.
Yep.
So speaking of fixing, and I think I had this conversation with you a few months ago, but I think we've already kind of determined that it's going to be a difficult fix to do much on that trail. Build Lebanon Trails would like to do a trial project to see if we can stabilize the worst areas where it's cracking and moving. By that, I mean finding material to fill and to fill the cracks and see if it stays. I know it doesn't have from discussions I've had with other people, the chances of success for a easy fix like that aren't very good. But I think the alternative is doing nothing. And, the city went out and tried to fix it, and it was good for a while, but it didn't, it kept moving. I think we need to try to seal it so it doesn't get water in there. And
So the trail surface is what you're talking about, trying to seal the trail surface.
it's cracking, and
Mhm.
it's cracking in some places for 40 feet. And
Linear cracking.
it's, there's one spot of concern that we'd start at that is wide enough to grab a narrow bicycle tire. And we don't want that happening.
Well, I would support that and I would even offer you help.
With materials, maybe? Wow. Very,
Yeah, sure
very
would.
good. But-
Absolutely.
And ideas. I mean, we'd like to kind of have some ideas and and if it works, then then we would move it to the other sections that are failing to try to maybe get another 10, 15 years out of that trail.
Yeah, means we'll have to do something.
Great. Thank you. Okay. I miss anything because I'm really good at that. Okay, so just to talk a little bit about some of the other things that are going on with DLT. One is I really wanted to show you, and you all know about how bad the graffiti gets. And, yeah, and how much work it is to
I
make
call-
it clean
call
again.
this art.
Somebody spent a lot of time doing that and you guys took it off?
In the dark,
My
I
goodness.
can't figure out how they did that.
We need to find him a job.
I know.
That took work to do
creature,
that.
that says creature up here.
Yes.
This line, it says creature. It's hard to read, but he or she
There's a
has also
tag.
tagged light poles on the old mill trail with the
Okay.
same creature.
So Bill,
And then this one down here was on a garbage can, the W-O with an A in the middle of it and B.
That's what it looks like now. You guys did a great job.
Yeah, it looks good.
So in the last week or so, the graffiti hasn't been as bad. I mean, they haven't been hitting us really hard. I don't know why. It just seems to have peaked and then it's been pretty low, but wanted to throw the numbers at you. So we've had 26 cleanups, 21 of these were since the April of 2022. And then, of course, the Cheetah Lake Dock was in addition to that. So Build Lebanon Trails has created a quick response graffiti removal team for the trail system. And we have four dedicated crews, maybe a one-man or two-man crew, but
5,
pardon?
5.
Oh, 5 now. And that we're rotating those responsibilities because we had one person that was doing it and it was way too much. And so our goal is to not give the taggers the satisfaction to be able to go view their taggings. I don't know what else we can do besides that because there's no penalty.
It's a great start. Yeah, that's what you can do.
So that's our plan. We'll keep at it. Okay. So one of our board members came up with the idea of, of looking at, I provided you with the maps and I have more, of the idea of connecting the Russell Drive Trail. So the Russell Drive Trail that goes down Russell Drive and goes to the community gardens park kind of goes to nowhere. And with all the development that's happening on the south end of town and the multifamily 3-story buildings that are going in, it seemed like an idea to maybe be thinking about how do you going to get those people to this Russell Drive Trail and onto to the entire trail system that's connected all the way to River Park. And one of the ideas is to bring up the idea to the staff that when they're looking at the rerouting or the realigning of the traffic signals at in the street,
Dewey and Walker?
Dewey, is to accommodate a trail connection to kind of get the people safely across the highway and onto to the south end of town. So Ron, do you not have a?
I don't know.
We're good.
And a lot of times you're too late when we look at the ideas that come up, they come up too late in the process. So we hope to be bringing ideas like that to this committee early.
I can tell you the Dewey piece, we just sent back to ODOT, the scope. The draft scope for the project. They're looking at ways to fund it. We spent most of the summer with ODOT and Lynn County, different various meetings looking at scope for that. There will be sidewalks and bike lanes in this section. There's plenty of right-of-way to do a multi-use path there. Where I'm concerned with multi-use path is when we get onto Primrose and the right-of-way width there. It's only a 50-foot right-of-way in through there.
It's really narrow.
And it's going to be really, really challenging. I mean, obviously, we would request additional right-of-way to meet our city standards, which I think on a local street's 58-foot right-of-way. So you have parking on either side. There's a potential we could make it parking on one side, but I like the idea, but just know that as this develops, there will be sidewalks for all these connections.
Right, which will help.
Yeah.
It's more about directing the people and, kind of the continuous trail system.
Sure.
The other design thing that I've seen, and Ben does it in quite a few places, is on the low volume streets, they'll share roads, they'll share the road, and they'll mark the road for bicycles and pedestrians, and which in some cases is traffic calming, but it's only on the area. Well, one of them is right downtown, but it's on the east side of the lake rather than the west side where all the businesses are. So that's just.
No, the concept is great. Let me see where ODOT comes back on this, the realignment. I know they're looking for ways to fund it, and that's, if they come up with funding, they're going to pay for, well, I shouldn't say that. They would be the lead design on the realignment for that piece. If that's the case, then we would jump out in front of them and do all the utility relocates that we have, sewer and water. And then we could talk to them about a multi-use path on the piece of Dewey, but I don't know if it's necessary. We could, let me get a feel for what the right-of-way widths are in there and if there's potential for, I think we're going to be pretty hard pressed to get additional right-of-way.
Right.
One, if I can, real quick, Rod, I'd like to, well, I can wait till after you finish the update, sorry.
You can go ahead if you want.
Well, I was just going to make an ask of BLT on the city's behalf to partner with us on the Beaton Lane improvement crossing across Tennessee Road.
Yeah.
Well, the city is, Ron's completed design. Galen's begun ordering materials, I believe. The city's going to do the construction, put a rapid flashing beacon in. and protect that crossing because it is extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally scared myself driving around that corner and in the mornings. So we've made it a big priority to make this improvement. With it, to meet the standard, we'll widen Beaton Lane to have a dedicated trail
Oh,
alignment, kind of like you guys wanted in the, initially anyway. But this is all kind of just happening for us, so we're looking for help, whether it's help with work or with some funding to get this project done.
well, just kind of give us an idea what it is specifically, so I can take it to the board. And that's,
We got a cost estimate completed.
Well,
now,
we bid it this summer and we went out for 3 quotes and our lowest quote, which was well over what we can actually take for quotes, was 104,000. So we budgeted 50. Inflation got us pretty good there. So we're going to order the materials. It'll be a 3 flashing system, just like it's out there at the boat ramp.
right?
So you can see it. But Jason's right. Lynn County came back with a lot, it's their jurisdiction on a roadway. They came back with a lot of changes. So those changes increased the cost substantially. Now, whether we bid it, I think Jason and I resigned ourselves to the fact that we're going to do it in-house. We'll contract out like the paving piece of it, but short of that, I don't know if you guys want to go to the board with any financial, or if there's other things. I don't know what your thought process there was, Jason, on that.
I would love some financial help for the trail widening and paving.
Yeah, because we did do, we budgeted 50,000 this year for that out of our streets fund, which is somewhat poor, just to do the signage and what was out there. And my guess is, based on what we're seeing, the signs themselves are going to be up in that neighborhood.
So, yeah, if you just give us the cost estimate that you have and give me some materials so I can take it to them. And
Yeah, I'll email you what we've got for a cost estimate and the drawings that we've got set up that are approved by Lynn County, and try and get it out. It's a bad location for pedestrians. We were just standing out there. It was like, it's kind
So
of,
Lynn County doesn't pay anything, but it's their road?
yeah, that's the way it works.
Okay. Because I know we complained to Lynn County one other time about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, no.
Our trail goes across their road.
Right.
Yeah, so to be honest, we do the same thing.
Okay.
so if there's work too, that kind of describe what that work is. So,
Yeah,
and you kind of know what our
sure.
workforce is like and what we're capable of.
Sure.
So, obviously, we're not going to be out there running backhoes or.
Absolutely. We'll
Although
get you
that
that.
would be fun.
We'd appreciate any help you could offer.
Thank you.
Well, we're having a retreat Sunday.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. So we also wanted to just let you know that we're offering volunteer support for the South Shore Trail. So keep that in mind also. If there's something that comes up, let us know. And so we can try to help with that process.
Okay.
So we have not heard anything about the Albany-owned property between Hattervane Park and that North William Street. Has staff heard anything?
That letter right there came from Peter Trotzen to Nancy this week,
Oh, I think I've got one.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
should have it.
I just haven't read it.
and we can discuss that if you, are we at a point to where we want to discuss that?
That was kind of the next thing I was thinking on the agenda.
All right.
Great.
It looks to me, reading through that real quickly here a little bit ago, is that they're not saying no, but there's quite a few things that need to be taken care of in order for that to happen. There's several concerns. He has 9 of them on the backside. Looks like about half of them aren't a problem at all, but the other half could take some doing. And again, that's just trying to read this thing real quick.
Well, having a letter is a start. I mean, this looks, without reading it, it looks similar to the letter we got.
It's about
several
Very
years ago.
same.
Yeah, so it didn't say no. It said these are our concerns and.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely puts the city under some serious obligations that I'm not sure well, quite honestly, we can't support. So we'd have to work through those details. And maybe you need some time to digest this a little bit.
Be a good
uh,
idea.
And everybody digest it and bring it back to the next committee meeting. I'll just give you some of what I'd like to do is either make a decision that this is a recommendation that this committee is going to make to the council
Mhm.
and send us down the path that, and whether it's now, later, or whatever, or make the recommendation that let's look at the alternative route for this trail system. Either way, we need to kind of get that lined out because I think we missed some potential grant opportunities this year with the alternative section that would have been ready to go, and we could have had that built and made that connection.
Sure. And I think the BLT board understands that, and we've had some discussions about the proposal to make a recommendation to move forward with the proposal that you submitted before that was eligible for funding. But we haven't made that recommendation officially, and now that we have this letter, we'll be able to read it, review it, and come back to the Trees and Trails Committee.
Okay.
Parks, Trees and Trails, I'm trying to.
Yeah, we're going to have to all get used to saying that a little different.
So, so what I'm hearing you say, Ron, is that you would recommend we take this, look at it, and then talk about it next time.
Yeah,
And
I would
if you
table
had,
any
is there
kind of-
anything in here you wanted to pick out that we would want?
Well, I think the tracking of people on the trail.
That
and
seems to be a hard one.
That's going to
Yeah.
be you look at that. I have some big reservations about the environmental impacts. It's not going to be a slab span that's going to span the whole slough. So there's going to be piles driven, which is going to be an impact. Then you've got, pavement we can do a lot of different things with. Worst case scenario, you could turn it into gravel. But if a bridge starts to fail, and some point in the future it will, is there going to be a grant available to fund a new bridge? Those are the things that I start thinking about long term. Not that the project's not a good idea. I just think that there's some stuff sitting in front of us that, it may not be the preferred alternative, but it is an alternative that is feasible and it could function. But I want this committee, that's my 2 cents. So I want this committee to look at the letter and make a reasonable stab at what you think should happen there.
Staff has had time to review the letter and go through some of the conditions and the first letter. And staff couldn't support the requirements put on the city to complete that construction trail.
Well, we definitely couldn't recommend that to the city council.
No.
That would be a good place to go. I think that puts us into a box that, and again, you're going to have, the federal permitting and state permitting on this would be substantial.
I think the real goal here is to make the connection all the way across town
Mhm.
from north to south. And this is a key piece, and getting that completed is pretty important.
Yeah.
So we'll talk with the.
Yeah, talk to your committee, and then as this committee moves forward, maybe next time, give everybody a chance to digest the letter a little bit more. And
So Sierra, will you make sure that the committee members that aren't here get an email of this or something so they can know to,
maybe
look it through.
even put it in next month's packet again as a review.
yeah, I think that would be a good thing. But if we had time to look at, or we're encouraged to look at it between now and then, that would be a good thing because it is pretty complicated.
Yeah.
And can I weigh in, Mr. Chair? I'm sorry.
Sure.
I think while there's been talk about kind of the immediate concern around permitting and some of those things, I think from my perspective, my concern here becomes if we go forward with this path, this would become a resource demand because maintaining it and meeting the requirements and the objectives would be the highest demand on resources. And that might put us in the position where we didn't have enough resources for maintaining other aspects of the parks and trails systems because of the requirements that we would have with permitting agencies and the city of Albany to maintain this. So there are some short-term issues. I'm more concerned about the long-term issues and what that could do in terms of that demand on both staff and cash resources for maintaining that. So I just wanted to make sure that was on the record also.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more discussion about that letter? Okay, Rod, anything else on the BLT update? Looks like you're pretty much to the bottom of it.
We have just a couple items, and I wanted to, I've added a couple that I handed out before the meeting. But anyway, the Oregon State Marine Board meeting, the staff has put together a meeting for November 29th
Yeah.
between BLT staff and the Oregon State Marine Board to look at the feasibility of improvements at Gills Landing. Preliminary, I understand, but again, we're having discussions, and I think that's good. I will not be able to attend that meeting, and Jan and Thad have BLT board members have expressed a desire to attend in my absence.
Sure.
So
Where is it? Is it going to be at Gills Landing?
Yeah, we had set one up for October, I don't know, it was a while back.
16th or something.
And there was some confusion by the Marine Board about it being a Zoom meeting and they couldn't attend in person. So, yeah, I want them to be in person there. So we'll meet at Gills Landing. Did you forward the invite to?
No, not
Those of-
the invite that where you accept or don't, I didn't forward that.
So will you forward that to whoever you want to be there? So
If it
that
works
they,
that way, I can just forward it and they can accept it.
you should be able to forward it, yeah.
Okay.
If not, tell me who it needs to go to and I can probably.
Would
or-
be Thad and Jan.
Okay.
Yeah,
So do you want me to forward that then?
I will give it a try.
Okay.
Just from this committee's perspective, I wouldn't mind getting forwarded that either.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
You could come too.
Hmm?
You could be there.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping to do.
Rod, why don't you let me do that? I'll forward it to Rick,
Got it.
Jan.
Forward it to the committee, Ron.
Okay, hang on. Committee
But Thad's not on the committee.
and Thad, yeah. And, okay. Yeah, and that's the end of November. You told me the date, I don't remember.
I think it's the 29th.
29th
Yeah.
Tuesday, 29th.
at 10.
So a couple of trail-related items that were added after I submitted this was, one is, you may know that, you probably do know that the bench pad at Riverview Park has been poured, and the pad at the Gills Landing for the bicycle repair station has been poured, and so we have several groups of volunteers. This is the dry hards were out there watching the concrete dry again
Mhm.
and save it from any vandalism. So it's kind of a fun way to volunteer. So those are both done. So the plan is to, at our board meeting here, at our retreat, we're going to schedule when we're going to put those bench in and also the bicycle repair station. So
And what's the procedure if folks want to put a couple trees by that bench down at Riverview Park?
Just have them get in contact with me.
Okay,
And then, of course, we use John Digges for helping us get the right trees and help us to plant them.
We'll have the
by
list.
standard. So I think they're talking 2 to 4 trees down there, so. Okay, and then one request is, I've heard many times now, a request for a trash receptacle, which is at a problem area, and that's probably why there isn't one there, is at the boat ramp at Cheetah Lake. There is one 100 feet from there, but the trash really accumulates really bad for reasons that we know the trail people that are using that area.
We'll put one back.
And a lot of times what I've been noticing is the wildlife's getting damaged out there by fishing line. There's a lot of fishing line. So although I think the fishing line containers that the sanding and steel headers provide are pretty ugly. I don't know if there's a, but I think they do it for free, but maybe there's some other way that we can start helping pick up some of that fishing line.
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll put a garbage can back there. We had one and it became a,
It has high potential to be people dropping off home trash and stuff there, I suppose. It's
it
too easy.
frisbeed the lid out in the lake a few times. So we'll come up with something a little bit different and we'll try something else.
Thank you. And that's all I had.
Okay, any more, anything else from the commission or committee? Any? Okay, I'm going to go to public comments. We have any public comments? Sure. Can you identify yourself and then why don't you come up to the podium?
Somebody search that guy?
I'm Jim McKinnon, and I'm a volunteer for the city of Lebanon and surrounding area or whatever. But anyway, I'm also a member of the Adopt a Park program. And I just had some questions about the Adopt a Park program to begin with. Is the group that I work with, are there other Adopt a Park groups out there anywhere?
There are.
There are?
Uh-huh.
I couldn't see a policy on the website. I couldn't see
Yeah.
anything about it.
We haven't done much with it. I think we haven't even sent a packet out to you or your group, Jim, in probably 3 or 4 years for renewal, have we? He does it on our behalf? Well, good. We haven't done well keeping up with that at all. We had a group sign up to be volunteers at the skate park. So that's starting out as on a volunteer basis, and we'll see if it grows into an Adopt a Park situation. But other than your group, Jim, and them, that's all that's out there right now.
Yeah, okay. Does the time spent on programs that I turn in every month, where does that go to? Does that, I know I give it to Sierra, but from there, is the city getting credit for that in any grants or anything as far as volunteer time that's
We
donated,
haven't,
or?
because we haven't written a grant for anything out there where you're the Adopt a Park member yet. But when we do, we certainly will use that
So
time.
do you just store that time up, or?
Yeah, and
I've
we
been
also,
doing this for 10 years, so I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, there's
there ought
plenty.
to be a stash of,
we use it every year for our Tree City
uh,
information, all the tree
Yeah.
work that you volunteered to do.
okay,
We use that credit. The fact of the matter is we just haven't done a very good job marketing or managing the program at all. So
yeah.
that's the,
Do
where we're at.
you have any problems with me kind of publicizing the Adopt a Park program on your behalf to try and make it, you know, if other people are interested in something like that, to try and
I
give them some
don't.
information as far as that, or be in a strawberry parade with a sign or something, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. I think I would like to bring something back so we can get some policy created that we could post. So somebody had some information that we could give everybody that's on the same page, because nobody's going to be as diligent as you have, making sure the paperwork's getting completed and the work's getting done and the reporting. I mean, it's just been fantastic. Well, why don't you let me bring something back to the next Trees and Trails Committee meeting for review for a policy for Adopt a Park program. And then we can get that out and maybe market it a little bit and start trying to spread the word to see if we can get some more community volunteers.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, okay. Well, I've spent, you know, you were talking about mowing and so on and so forth, Cheetah Lake or whatever. I've spent a big chunk of the day today out there mowing along the trails because the berry vines are
I don't know.
on attack, of course, so hopefully I'll knock them back as, for the winter, so they don't take over altogether, but anyway. I guess that's it.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. Okay. Anything else for the good of the order before we finish?
I don't know if the committee is aware, we have two, it was advertised and posted last Thursday for the vacancies for the Parks Committee, Tree Board,
Hmm.
Park,
Okay.
Parks, Trees
Whatever it
and
is,
Trails
yeah.
Committee.
Was it
So-
publicized on the city's website or?
Yeah,
I saw it on Facebook.
yeah, and I'm sure it's.
So you
put
have
on-
two applicants?
We have two positions. I don't know
Oh,
how
but
many
no applicants. Oh.
Yeah. I don't know.
So if we know of somebody that would be good on there, it would be a good time to talk to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Next scheduled meeting is November 16th, 2 o'clock, and we're adjourned.
Thank you. Yeah, we won't be able to have this room. We won't be able to be there.
Oh, neither you will be there?
Well,
And Rod won't either. You're
So we
going.
need to reschedule
right?
that date.